I'd like to begin this city council meeting. Welcome to the city council of the city of Escalon, the regular meeting of August 19th, 2019. Would you please join me in the salute to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Merkin?
Here.
Councilmember Crumick?
Here.
Councilmember Legero?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alves?
Here.
Mayor Swift?
Right here. Well, body, yes. Okay, so we're going to go right to the consent calendar tonight. And again, these items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for special consideration. For example, regarding item number 2, I will be abstaining from voting on check number 71511. Are there any other items that we'd like to pull for?
I'd like to pull
further?
3, 4, and 5.
Okay, pull 3, 4, 5. And so, anything else, or are we prepared to?
Move on items 1 and 2.
Okay.
Second.
So moved and seconded to move on items 1 and 2 in the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 3, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, number 3. With the agreement with the county at $51,000, I read through that, and I was trying to understand whether or not we have a locked-in $51,000, or do we have a contingency, or where are we at with that?
So well, I'll let you answer.
Where we're at right now is, so that's the approval price that's gonna take them to do all the job. That's actually gonna be the top price we would pay. It could eventually be cheaper. So they wanted to give us what it would cost at the most extreme, but if they come in and they're not using as much material labor, then the price will go down.
We're not gonna get a bill for $71,000.
No, the most it will be is what was proposed to us.
Okay, that was my question, because I didn't see any contingencies or any statements regarding whether or not that was the case.
And I did call around too, just to verify square footage, and we're getting a pretty good discount with the county.
Well, we're working
compared
with
to
them,
the
and I
contract.
recommend we do more if we can. I mean, I saw the map. The map's, that's excellent.
Sure.
But on Jones Road, for example, we're gonna repave that too. But does that road have any special paving considering the trucks that go on it consistently? Or are we recovering any funds for the damage of the road from all the trucks?
Funds part, I couldn't tell you that.
We are not.
Okay, are we planning to, or are we just gonna let the road get beat up all the time and keep paving it, or what?
I don't know what our option is to go back on them on that.
Okay.
We would have to research that
Because
part of
that's
it.
trucks in and out, day in, day out.
Correct. Yeah,
That's tearing that road up, just letting you know.
yeah.
Okay, that's into that one.
Are you, so are there any other questions regarding item number 3? Like to see if we can have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been approved and seconded to approve consent calendar item number 3. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion, item number 3 passes 5-0. Item number 4.
Okay, number 4, the grants. The question I have for that is this. I read through that and I was trying to understand, are we committing ourselves to any obligations in terms of the grant money being used for any specific type of building?
It's for planning processes at this point in time, so they have $160,000 available to the city of Escalon that we would apply through application for planning.
So administrative costs.
And it'd be administrative or anything that we would either move forward on taking through planning commission or council, or types of guidelines, things that we
But
would
no money would
establish.
move forward toward the actual building of anything?
No, that is, they will
Good to
have
know.
money for the
I'm good.
next
All right, I'm good.
next part for that.
I'd move that we pass number 4 on staff recommendation.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to pass on item number 4 under the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passed. Item number 4 passes 5-0, and we move on to item number 5.
Number 5, I read through number 5 partially, 77 pages, a little more than I could digest. I think it's reasonable that 2 council members go over that before we submit that into our laws or whatever. I'm willing to volunteer, and I know that the mayor will be with me.
There is a personnel committee,
And
so
who would that be?
it's 2 council members, and forgive
there's
me
a
because
guess.
I can't recall which one. I'm pretty sure or Mayor Pro Tem Alves, you're one of them. I
Good
just
enough.
can't recall who the other one
I
is.
want to have the time to go through that thing. It's extensive, and I would feel derelict in my responsibilities not to know more about it if we were to pass it. So I'd
Okay.
like a little more time to review it.
Mayor Pro Tem Alves, do you have any problem if we have you and the other member who's on the Personnel Committee meet with staff?
That would be fine with
Okay.
me.
Does the rest of the council have any issue with that? I'm seeing consensus on it. No? Okay. Let's make that the plan. Consensus has been given. Find out who else is on the Personnel Committee. I don't know off the top of my head either. And then set a date with staff, okay?
All right, good enough. Thank you. I would move that we table that then. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go with consensus. Council consensus is heading that direction.
Perfect.
Okay?
Good enough.
Okay, moving on to staff communications.
So Mayor and Council, before you tonight are monthly reports for the Treasurer's Report, Police Department, Animal Control, Water, Development Services, Building Report, Public Works, the Wastewater Treatment Plant, and the Recreation Department. Some of them are for both June and July. If you have any questions on those, we can answer those for
I
you.
have one for you on the wastewater. I was looking through the ledger and the different balances and the accounts, and I noticed in the sewer count, we were negative 62,000 in operational. And then I looked, and the update was 262,000 positive. What happened?
So that update goes from June to, so the updated one is for June. And in the industrial
Industrial good.
capital,
I'm talking about the residential side. It said that we were 62,000 in the hole, and it shows us at 262 plus. I just don't, what was the big swing in that short period of time is what I would,
I'm not sure where you're referencing. In the industrial, I can see that we went from 262 in the capital to a negative, and that's because our sludge project.
well, let me see if I can find that real quick. I thought I saw.
So it's on the treasurer's report under 620, which is sewer industrial.
Right, hang on one second if I can find it here. Let me click that. Well, you know, where was that little guy? Well, you know what, if it's what it is, but I thought it said residential. That's why I was confused and wanted to know. If it's not and it isn't, that's life. We'll go on.
So on the screen there, she has highlighted.
All right, there we go. Let's see. I looked at six, negative, there it is, and that is industrial, my mistake. I thought it said residential. Let's see here, residential is below it. Okay, interesting. I flip-flopped those. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Okay, good enough.
Happens.
All right, good enough. I'm good.
There any other questions on the staff reports?
Let's see if I get any more questions.
I have just a couple of other items. At our last council meeting, you adopted the property tax agreement. And Gary Huskin had posed the question about the 1% and if the city really got, or I'm sorry, if the city got the full 36% of the 1%. And he was accurate in saying that we don't get that. The way that it works is there's actually layers within that 1%. So there's other agencies within that 1%. We get 36% of what the county gets, which ultimately narrows it down to, on average, because there are different tax rate areas, between a 10% or 15% of that. So I just wanted to clarify that Mr.
10%
Haskin
or
was,
15% of the 1%.
yes, yes.
Can that pie awfully thin? Okay.
And then another note is that the last 3 years, the high school basketball coaches athletic division has ran Cub basketball. And we received notification last week that they are not interested in running Cub basketball anymore. And the likelihood of us using the new gym to run, if it was to be run through the city, is slim. So we would only have available the old gym, and we haven't heard back from El Pertel yet whether that gym would be available. We have a meeting with the Rec Commission at the 1st of September, so we'll be discussing with them what we might be moving forward with. I just wanted to let the council know that, so.
Yeah, it's a popular program. So did they express why they were not interested in?
So I think in the past that it had been used as like a kind of like a farm league, right? Yeah, like you're grooming your top players to play at high school. And I think that the amount of effort that was having to be put in because of the number of participants, they weren't seeing value through doing all of that work.
Are they willing to work out something with the, because I assume the rental of the gyms, was there a rental of the gym before?
We used to pay a flat fee for the school district uses, but they have revamped their fees. So, for example, we used to pay like $1,200. When we did some of the math, we are looking at $3,000 to $4,000 just for the rental of the gym and the cost of the custodians.
Well, I know we do them favors, and I know this would be a great opportunity maybe to reciprocate, so I'm sure we got a couple of good negotiation points there.
Yeah,
have to raise
and
our
I know
tariffs.
that there's concerns with the new gym because there's not supposed to be any drinks or food in there, and it is hard to manage. So that's the hesitation on using the new gym.
Fair enough, fair enough. I do know, though, that the Lions Club runs a girls' basketball tournament every year, and you do need to have people at the doors to make sure there's nobody bringing the drinks. You know, that's something that, you try to honor the best you can, and I don't see
Right.
why we couldn't maybe do some like that in this situation, do some kind of assurance, that they see people at the doors, and I would imagine most people would be more than willing to comply with that.
Yeah.
The name of keeping the program going.
I guess it's getting it staffed at the doors.
Well,
And then
yeah.
we're gonna have to go through the whole process of getting coaches, where we haven't had to deal with coaches in the past too.
Well, okay.
Because the high school club has run everything, so we
Right,
haven't
okay.
had to recruit coaches
Okay.
for a few years now.
Okay. Anything else under staff
So
communications?
that's all I have.
I'd like to give an update on the status of the seepage at wastewater treatment plant from Pond 4. Last week on Tuesday, the leakage had subsided, it stopped on the adjacent property next to us. I think still with the river going down the day before and that day, and with the amount of Bennonites, what helped it, it's stayed gone, it's dry. We've brought a levee inspector in that actually works for our contract engineer now. He's given his blessing, but according to the state, is we still have to have a geotech, which I met on site today. He's contacted the state, so until we can prove through a geotech where they're gonna have to come in and do a little bit more boring and stuff before we can put it back online, all the issue has stopped, other than us, we're still putting it in the backyard. We've been able to maintain the odors. We are getting more odor calls since we've been doing that. To say there are odors, nothing's been confirmed, so it's not that anybody's smelling it over there other than the complaint that's calling in at the time, so we're doing everything we can. But things are improving out there. We're staying on it, trying to get the geotech to get things passed, because if we can go back into Pond 4, it's just gonna be a positive for all of us.
Good news. I wonder if the river had a siphoning effect that caused that problem.
That is one of the things that the geotech is looking into. And he's not as in favor as it being the river, because he thinks the river's still another 20 feet down compared to where we were at, so. But we are looking through monitoring well systems, and we are seeing a silt line about 20 foot down, which he has in time seen water horizontally move through a silt line. So we're kind of in the process of seeing if that could have caused an issue also.
Is he taking into consideration, from what I understand, that the river flows, they're managed? I forget if they go down during the weekend, up during the week, I think?
Yeah, they actually have different times of the
Yeah.
day and night, and on weekends when they do things, definitely. They try to do it more when people aren't in the area of the
Right.
water flows, but yeah, we definitely all have a schedule
Okay.
when they do that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Anything else under staff communications?
No.
Okay, let's proceed to matters presented from the audience. And at this time, the public may address the city council on any item not on the agenda that is within the authority of the council. The speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes, and I will be asking Sergeant Lackey tonight, if you don't mind, to keep your stopwatch out, and which is a good thing, to keep everybody's comments brief and to the point, and brevity is the soul of wit, and a good council meeting as well, please. So, unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. The determination of whether an item is within the authority of the council is a discretionary decision made by the mayor. Would there be anybody who'd like to speak tonight? Oh, I think Russell's beating you to the front. No worries, no worries.
You rolled up there a little faster.
I know. Well, I just wanted to see what happens if I go after over 5 minutes. I'm going to stretch this one out. Russell Fowler, Office of Assemblymember Heath Laura. Good to be with you tonight. Just wanted to thank the police department for letting us join them in the National Night Out festivities. Had a lot of fun. Sorry I wasn't able to stay for the whole thing, but I got the accordion, so that's all that matters. Just to hear the accordion was good enough for me. And I've been wanting to say this for 2 weeks. I got a ticket from Tammy for the Escalon Youth Center dinner, and that was the best tri-tip and best beans I've ever had. And I need to find out who made those beans, because we're all wanting that recipe. And
I don't think it's being given out.
Huh?
I don't
Oh.
think they give it out.
You mean I can't
Right,
use
Terry.
eminent domain from the government to try to work some of that stuff out there? But no, they were very good. I ate off that sucker for like 5 days. So it was good, and glad it went to a good cause. So that's pretty much all I had to say was about food.
Fantastic, and thank you for coming along with us for a National Night Out. It's good for the public to see, assembly members' representation there as
Of
well.
course, we're happy to do so. Is there any comments, questions for me?
Still got 4 minutes.
Take me out in cuffs. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much,
Thanks,
Russell. There's a hand in the back.
Attached to the body.
Hello, good evening. My name is Larry Grossi. Live at 16691 South Steinagle Road. We're here to give a little presentation based on, I guess, a presentation and I guess to ask some questions pertaining to the decision that was made at last city council meeting about the extension that was given to Coolman Trucking for the cleanup effort there. So my daughter Katerina is gonna present you something with that.
I know we only have like 4 minutes now. So, so basically we're just here to discuss lots 38 and 44. I just wanted to quickly clarify the meaning of incidental use and then discuss the reasons why the lot shouldn't really be used for steel storage, and then address a concern that Mr. Crummich, is it Crummich?
Close enough.
Cool. That he had about no longer allowing steel storage during the August 5th city council meeting. So basically, one of the largest misunderstandings that continues to pop up, can you go give this to them, please? Thank you. That continues to pop up throughout the entire issue is kind of the non-conforming business and incidental use letter that was sent to Marvin Schmidt on April 15th, 2014 regarding Coleman's use of the lots as steel storage. This letter that was sent by the city to Marvin Schmidt regarding his request to allow the Colemans to use the lots as industrial steel storage. This is a copy of the letter, and for tonight's purposes, we'll be focusing on sections 3 and 4. In this letter of allowance of incidental use, section 3 clearly states that the outdoor storage of steel beams is approved as incidental use to the primary use of the lumber and hardware business. This means that the only reason steel was allowed to be stored there in the first place was strictly because Escalon Lumberyard was in business. Because of this, Section 4 dictates that the incidental use expires once the Escalon Lumberyard property is sold. Now, at the City Council meeting back on August 5th, Ms. Coleman repeatedly stated that the Escalon Lumberyard had not been sold. Her argument is basically that the lumberyard in its entirety hasn't been sold because the Grossi family only bought 2 lots and the Colemans are leasing to buy the remaining lots. The problem with this argument of how many and which lots and were purchased by whom is completely irrelevant, because the ability is completely irrelevant to Coleman's ability to use the property for industrial steel storage. Coleman's argument is invalid because although they are leasing to purchase the lot tied to the letter of incidental use, being able to use the lot for industrial steel storage was contingent on the lumberyard being in business. If you were to simply walk into the Escalon Lumberyard, you can see that this product is being clearanced out because the lumberyard is going out of business. Therefore, the only possible conclusion to be drawn is that the letter of incidental use is no longer valid. One thing I would like to make very clear is that during the 10 years the Colemans have used these lots, they have never applied for or signed any temporary or conditional use permit which allows them to use the lot as industrial steel storage. They just used it as the incidental use. The only reason they were allowed to do so was because it was directly tied to the lumberyard business via this letter of incidental use. So I just wanted to go over a quick reason why the lot shouldn't continue for storage. And one of the main reasons is the constant truck traffic in the area that is not designated as a truck route. First of all, there's many houses that run against the Roosevelt Street, which is what they're wanting to use as the truck route, and this is problematic because of the fact that many houses are directly across the street from the steel storage lots. These residents deal with the dust that is constantly blown into their homes as trucks enter and leave the property on a regular basis. Additionally, the road itself is really narrow, which can be potentially dangerous when trucks fly down the street, considering that there are many children and elderly that live in the neighborhood. Other neighborhoods aren't allowed to be truck routes due to these specific hazards, so why is this neighborhood any different? Additionally, aside from the neighborhood and the safety of its residents, the consistent use of this road by Coleman's trucks is and will continue to be detrimental to the road itself. Ms. Coleman has stated that her company's trucks are no more than 50,000 pounds at any given time, and that because of this, the road won't be damaged. Unfortunately, the materials that this company transports is industrial grade, meaning that a simple load of 5 steel beams, which was in their lot last week, is enough to bring that total truckload to above 70,000 pounds, which is a very common load size for this company. Finally, Ms. Coleman has stated that Roosevelt would be rarely used as a truck route, as the yard is simply a transition yard for fabricated pieces and is often not in use. She goes on to claim that there has not been any material in the yard since March of 2019 and that there won't be any material until the end of the year. Once again, these statements are inaccurate. Just a simple drive down there, I have photos from Thursday, the 15th of August. As you can see that although they might only use these lots occasionally for fabricated storage, the lot serves as an industrial steel storage yard year-round. Finally, I just wanted to say that a reason to say no to the industrial steel yard is basically not only for the cleaning up the steel yard, but also for the community. The Escalon community has said no to steel for years. In fact, last Friday, a petition was created to call on the governing body of the city of Escalon to vote no on rezoning these portions of the Escalon lumberyard property, lots 38 and 44, on Roosevelt and First. In 2 hours, we obtained 20 signatures from the immediate and surrounding areas alone. A copy of this petition I can give to you. And while this is just the start of the petition, it is clear that the Escalon community wants to see the city of Escalon cleaned up, and that continuing to have this industrial steel storage yard in the middle of the central business district is not a way to achieve that. We are not here today to stomp on small businesses or run anyone out of business. Rather, we simply want to see the central business district of Escalon flourish and thrive and create any opportunity and commerce for the community. However, continuing to store industrial steel in the middle of a business and residential area will only harm the growth and beautification this town and this council is working so hard to achieve. The Coleman family is leasing to own the lots 38 and 44, which is great. Let's encourage the Colemans to invest in the Escalon community by using the lots in a way that'll benefit the whole community.
All right, thank you. And I do apologize. I don't know if it was expressed to you regarding the 5-minute rule or not. Okay, so we'd like to try to keep within that 5 minutes. And so my question to Sergeant Lackey is about, what, eight minutes? 7. Oh, yeah, the reason I say that is because I have, no worries. I have a feeling we're going to have a little point counterpoint, so I want to be fair to both sides. So that's why I'm asking that question tonight. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7 minutes. Okay.
It was no big deal, let them have it.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak under matters presented from the audience?
She didn't have to say her rebuttal.
Hi,
Good evening.
Stacy Coleman, 28141 Lone Tree Road, Escalon, California. That was a nice presentation, and there were some things that were taken out of context. The steel beams that were in the yard last week were on somebody else's trailer. He's been told not to park there anymore. And I didn't say that there was no steel in the yard last time I was here. I said that we had some remaining steel in the yard that hasn't moved. A customer over purchased and it hasn't moved in several years. So that was inaccurate. We haven't had any material in the yard come and go for 3 to 4 months. We don't have a high volume of trucks. We don't intend to have a high volume of trucks. And the material that we will potentially later on have in there may or may not be very small fabricated material or otherwise. Right now we are focusing on a different business avenue, something that could possibly work well with the non-conforming business that the Grossis have proposed for the area, which could make that area really nice because they could work really well together. That area is not really conducive to much retail, so industrial office space would be great, and potentially what we're looking at would hopefully work with it. So that's all I wanted to say about that, and I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
before you sit down,
Yeah.
where are we at with your conditional use? Or
It
your,
was turned in today.
it was turned in today?
The final revision was turned in today. I brought it in on Tuesday, the 13th, to Dominique, turned everything in. She went through it, asked for some additional information. We paid our fees, and I did ask Ms. Romo if that was enough to consider us being met our deadline. She said yes, and I left to get the additional information. Today is actually the 10th business day. Since I can't turn anything on the weekends, those shouldn't count against me.
Okay, well, let's clear this up. Staff believes that wasn't the case. Staff believes that basically you didn't get your stuff in on time, is what they believe. And you came in late, which is what, the 19th today? Mm-hmm. Because they don't consider the weekends, they consider the weekends as running time. So I don't know where you thought maybe that wasn't the case, but that's the case here now. So basically, you are beyond your limit of time, you know that.
Well, that was just in addition to everything else that's gone on. I have a handwritten receipt from Dominique that she accepted our check
I
for
understand
the
that.
filing of our fees.
I understand that.
And I've been told by Dominique and also by another gal that works in the planning department, I can't remember her name, that you'll bring in your application, they'll look it over, and sometimes they'll need additional information. So it's pretty standard practice for it to come back and forth with additional information.
So are you under the impression that your permit has been accepted?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think staff needs to respond.
So,
I have a question.
Sure.
Does this need to be agenda item?
It should be, yeah.
Well, then let's get it agendaed and get it straightened out.
Okay, so one of you needs to make a motion to add this matter to the agenda.
I'd move that we added to the agenda.
Are we talking about agendizing it this evening?
Yes,
Okay. So from what I understand, requires a 2/3 vote?
that's right,
Okay.
if you want to discuss it, right?
Okay.
Well, I want to get it cleared up. I don't want it lingering one way or the other.
Fair enough. Motion's been made to agendize this item for this evening, and we need a second, or the motion will die for lack of a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to agendize this item for this evening for further discussion and possible action. Is there any, tonight, yes.
As we were speaking.
And so, in other words, basically what we would be doing, we would be continuing talking about this motion, but we would be, in this case, be able to take action one way or another tonight on it. So it's been moved and seconded to agendize this item. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just like to get it cleared up. A lot of ambiguities. I want it cleared up. If it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't.
Okay.
But let's put it to bed one way or the other.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on this particular motion to agendize this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. Motion passes 4-1. We will agendize the item for this evening, so go for it.
Well, let's go. Let's see where we're at with this. We have,
okay, so.
go ahead.
So from a staff perspective, Coleman's were given via an email on August 6th that the deadline was August 15th. So the discussions about the deadline was set up front, that August 15th was the deadline.
Actually, the first email we got, that our deadline was August 8th.
And then
it was
and-
corrected, so how are we to know that that wasn't a mistake as well? Just
Did you
saying.
ask the question, though?
Didn't
Okay.
ask the question.
All right, so it was clarified
brought
that
it in
it was
early.
August 15th, and Ms. Coleman was not told that her check was accepted as to meet the deadline. It was needed the application. In fact, when she came in on that Tuesday, they have changed what they're going to do at the property and are suggesting another business activity and wanted the steel storage to be incidental to the business activity. The business that's being proposed needs a conditional use permit, but the conditional use permit doesn't allow the current way the zone is, you can't do outdoor storage by conditional use permit in that zone. So the zoning needs to be amended, which was part of the process to meet this extension. So they're proposing another business that can, it's retail trailer, semi-trailer rentals, or it's trailer rental, semi-trailer rentals. So that is allowed in the C2 via a conditional use permit. Incidental use is not allowed in our municipal code. The reason that it was allowed, and this is staff's opinion, doesn't mean that this is what they were thinking, but the reason I think that they're thinking they can do that in just the steel storage is based on how we treated it with Escalon lumber. But there is a difference in this scenario where the lumber yard, when it came into a business and established, was M1. So they were already a non-conforming operating as an M1 in the C2 when it was established. So that is why they were allowed, the council was allowed to make that exception and allow the incidental use of the steel beams, the storage. If the Colemans, so basically they didn't turn in, Dominique, after the Tuesday meeting, confirmed the requirement for the zoning amendment, notified the Colemans. On the Thursday, Colemans responded to the email acknowledging the receipt of it, but saying that it was disappointing. But there was no other communication about that. And then today when they came in with their permit, their application, it was basically forced upon staff to take. And they were told at that time too that a zoning amendment was needed, and they continued to say, no, it's not. So in staff's mind, they did not meet the deadline. The deadline was outlined. The deadline was stated in their email to a council member. So that is why the letter went out. This doesn't prohibit them from going forward. It only says that they have to clean the storage up now until they go through the process where the steel storage is allowed, outdoor storage is allowed.
Okay, let me just clarify. The reason why this was agendized is it's an immediate item because my understanding is that the property, based on the city's position, the property needs to be cleared by August 30th, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So there will not be another meeting between now and then.
Exactly.
So it is an immediate need for our discussion tonight, and that's why we have it as an agendized item now.
That came
light.
to your attention after this agenda was posted.
Just
So I would imagine that's probably going to be where this conversation will be centering about. Do we want to essentially extend the cleanup further? Because obviously that versus the application process aren't going to juxtapose at this point. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but understanding that there's a dispute about whether a zoning code amendment is needed, and they haven't indicated any willingness to apply for a zoning code amendment, so,
Okay.
But it is our ordinance requirement for such.
correct.
Well, it is what it is.
I think the discussion tonight really boils down to this August 30th deadline. There can be differences of opinions about the 15th, was that the deadline, was the deadline met or not? The position that the city has taken is it was not met, therefore the property needs to be cleared of the steel by the 30th. There's no impact on your ability to continue going through the process, whatever the process that you decide is the process you want to go through. The city has made its position clear regarding the zoning code amendment and the conditional use permit. So at this point, it's really whether or not the property, whether there's going to be an extension of cleaning up the property beyond the August 30th date. And I think at this point, it doesn't sound like there's steel being moved onto the property at this point. There is steel that has been on the property for quite some time. So it seems to me that the only issue is whether that steel remains there beyond August 30th or it just gets removed, so.
I think it sums it up.
It sounds like that's the gist of the subject of this. Now, I don't know, if again, we do now have the option to make a motion, if you would like.
I just would
Discuss
like to
further.
say one other thing. Tammy Alcantar was not in the meeting with Dominique and myself on Tuesday, so she can't completely say that Dominique didn't tell me that our check was meeting the deadline. So that's unfair.
Dominique's right here, she can attest to that.
I was in the meeting on Tuesday. She asked if she could make payment. I said yes. At no time did I ever say it was in lieu of the meeting the deadline. This council was clear in my interpretation of the action that was taken at the last meeting, that the application would be submitted. I was more focused on getting that application submitted because I can't move anywhere without the application. That's why we met on Tuesday. She had come in on Monday, the day before, asking to meet with me. I made time to meet with her so that we could go over everything, because I know that there was going to be other items that would need to be submitted into the application to be able to be complete upon our review on that Thursday.
Okay.
And I was also in a meeting on Tuesday and gave her a check and asked her if we met our deadline, because there were other items that she needed that I would need to research and get information on. So her word against mine.
Okay.
I
Fair
just
enough.
want to make that clear.
Right.
Because there's been a whole lot of information given to us that if we did certain things, that the incidental use would look better, that we would probably be able to do, and we've done every one of them at great expense. But yet, when we come into these meetings, it's a whole different story.
Okay.
So it's just been a very prejudiced process for us, not so much for other people.
Would it be asking too much if we continue in, further meetings, if we either have a council member attend the meetings? I know that I've done that from time to time, and, I want to entertain that possibility as well, just so that, we minimize, the he said, she said.
I think that would be a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, it
Because
does,
there's
it does seem
really
to help,
no
yeah.
recourse for anybody
Yeah.
on either side.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It does seem to help a
Yeah.
lot, and, just keep everything,
Yeah.
so that, so.
Yeah. One other thing, because
Yeah.
I'm just going to get it all out there because
Sure.
we're doing a different thing. The other thing, the comment was made, Dominique said that she had done a lot for us because she had given her time and gone over the paperwork with us, which just makes me wonder what her job is. Is she supposed to work with the city, or was she giving me something special?
I give that service to everybody who comes in wanting to apply for any type of permit we have. If they ask to meet with me and ask for any time, we make the time for them, whether it's with me or my other staff members. So she has met with Diana in my absence for the same stuff, and then I followed up with her on the Tuesday to meet with her. So when she did accuse me that I am not doing them any favors or helpful or supporting them in any way, I confirmed and advised to her that my job is not to support or help people so much as it is to anybody that comes in here to identify what things can be approved and what our municipal code allows and what items are not allowed. And at this point, early in the conversation, we came to council advising originally that outdoor storage is currently not an approved use through the municipal code. That's my job as staff, to identify those issues and bring them forward, and then council provides the direction in which our staff moves forward with. So at the time you'd move forward with an extension to move forward on granting 10 days to submit application and zoning amendment, and we've been doing that. And we work with anybody who comes in, anybody who asks for a project to be done. We meet with everyone, and I provide that same service to everyone, and that was in response to being told that I'm not helpful to her.
I want
That would have been a much better way to say it.
I want to distill this back to the topic at hand. And one thing, again, we do need to have a motion if we want to continue on this. And essentially, at this point, it sounds like basically if you want to make a motion to give there an extension, okay, that's fine. I would highly recommend when we do that, or if we do that, to give a timeline, something other than, because I understand where you're coming from, okay, because it says within the next 10 days. I would typically read it as the next 10 days period versus the next 10 business days, but everybody can read it differently. So I would highly suggest in this, if you do make a motion to erase any ambiguity, business days, or 10 days period. And I really want any further conversation at this point. I want to really keep it to that point. If you choose not to make a motion, then the August 30th deadline continues. I just want to remind the council what your options are at this point.
My only concern with this, I just wanted it up front. I want to get done with it. I don't want any more ambiguities. I want it finalized, one way or another, because it's tit for tat. I don't want to deal with that stuff. I want to see this thing resolved one way or the other.
Okay.
So I'll leave it up to the council to make a decision.
And will our conditional use permit be accepted
At this time,
for the trailer rental business?
for the trailer rental business only, it could be considered. It can't be considered for outdoor storage, so, well,
didn't-
actually, the application has on there for the storage of the outdoor, of the steel, sorry.
Yeah, we can take that out. It said it would be very incidental, and I was told that there could be requests and changes and so on and so forth, but we've already paid the money for the conditional use and the environmental fee. So was that money accepted?
I was going to say, and to clarify, you mean the conditional use application
Yes.
versus the actual
The
permit?
permit,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Well, again, I want to kind of sort of try to distill this back to the reason this motion was made.
If I may. So the steel storage at that property is not permitted under the current zoning code. And it is not, even if you were able to receive a conditional use permit for a permitted use in that area, steel storage is not considered that's not permissible as an
Right.
incidental use or anything. So at this point, I don't see any reason to continue with the steel that's there, being left there, because it would require zoning amendments, conditional use permit amendments, and something significantly different. And what I'm hearing is that there hasn't been steel for your business stored on that property, other than the steel that has been left there for some time from
Old
an
customer,
old
yes.
customer. So it seems to me that the August 30th deadline is appropriate just to get the steel that's on there off the property. That allays that issue. And then there's no impact on your ability to go through the conditional use permit, or if you feel that the zoning code amendment would be beneficial to your business, to go through that process as well. I mean, there's no impact on your ability to do that. Right now, I think the only issue is whether the steel needs to come off by the 30th or not. So
Okay.
that
I
seems
just
be
want to
the
know if
issue.
the money I've already paid since it's been accepted, is that will change the wording on the conditional use permit and move forward on that.
Yeah, so the check that you were given was held, and has not been processed,
Right, I know.
so.
And it will
At
not,
this time, it depends on where we're going, because I would just caution you that if you decide to move forward with this conditional use permit, and then you decide to move forward with the zoning amendment, once the zoning amendment is done, you would have to do another conditional use permit
I understand
for the
that.
incidental still. So,
Yeah.
just so you know that it would be two conditional use
Right,
permits.
I understand that.
Okay.
So really, the issue is this continuation of the steel storage on the property that was part of the original agreement.
Correct.
And it seems like that's kind of a dead issue at this point. The property is sold, the,
Our property is not sold,
Not
but
sold.
yes.
well, and you still have the agreement with the Schmitz.
Right.
But that is the
Right,
triggering
no, I
event that terminates that agreement. So that steel comes off the property by the 30th. You continue on with the plans for that property and go through the normal
Mm-hmm.
process as everybody else. There's no impact on your ability to do that.
Yeah, that part's not unencumbered. That part's unencumbered.
Yeah, that's still
Just want to
available.
make it clear for the
and
audience.
just to be clear, the money you currently have, is that some money that she'll apply to the new, application, or does that return to her and she starts over? How's that work?
So she submitted a check for the cost of a conditional use
$1,100.
permit. So if we look through the application and we go over with them that they're not going to even apply for the outdoor storage, then we would process the application in that fashion.
The other process, the other one with the trailer rental thing?
Correct,
Okay.
right.
And that money would apply to that application?
Correct,
Are those the same
absolutely.
fees?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay,
Just so we're clear, I want it all on the record. I just want, I don't need more ambiguities.
and that's satisfactory
I'm
answer to
good.
that question.
I'm good.
And like I said, I want to keep germane to the topic, but that's a very good question, though, you know,
Okay,
where's my
thank you.
money?
Yeah.
So,
And if you do, if there are issues that come up and you're not comfortable, with the answers you're getting, you can always come before the council and we'll, keep
Address
us in the loop and we're happy to address them, so.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
There it is.
Okay.
Done.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak matters presented from the audience? Seeing none, we'll proceed to public hearing to consider the following. Item number 7.
Get it done with.
And who gets this one?
Tired of it.
Sorry, that's me.
Okay, no problem.
So, Mayor and Council, tonight, staff is asking you to hold a public hearing and consider the adoption of the attached resolution of the City Council, revising certain existing fees and establishing new fees for various city services with an effective date of October 18th of 2019. As part of our ongoing operations, staff reviews and periodically recommends revising certain and existing fees and establish a various new fees for services provided by the city.
7.
The services for which a city imposes a user regulatory fee typically derive from an individual person or entity's action, request, or behavior. Therefore, except in cases where there is an overwhelming public benefit generated by the city's involvement in the individual action, a fee for services ensures that the individual bears most, if not all, of the cost incurred by the city to provide that service. When a fee targets 100% of full cost recovery, the individual is bearing the entirety of the cost. When a fee targets less than full cost recovery, other city revenue sources, in most cases the general fund, subsidize the individual activities. Industry best practice and California statute are in harmony. User and regulatory fees should be set according to the estimated reasonable cost of service and should bear a fair and reasonable relationship to the payer's burdens on or benefits received from the activities and/or services provided by the city. Fairly allocating cost to the services provided and recovering some or all of these costs from service recipients creates value and predictability for city customers and reimburses the city for services provided to a single party as compared to the public at large. Collecting for fees for services increases the availability of general fund revenues to be used for services and activities available to all residents and businesses, such as public safety and public works services. Helps meet fee payer service level expectations by collecting fees to fund the services. Staff has reviewed the city's fee schedule effective July 1, 2019, and recommends several modifications. The modifications are summarized below and detailed in Attachment A of this report. For our building and development fees, we're going to add a fee for revision to solar permits. We're reducing fees for building permit plan review and inspection for tenant improvements, greater than 500 square feet. Adding a clarifying note to indicate that if a third-party plan review is required, for fixed fee permits, the city shall pass through directly to the applicant the cost of third-party plan review. Add a fee for review and deposit administration of construction and demolition, waste reduction and recycling plan application. We created several additional appeal fee categories. Nuisance abatement fees formally document that the city incurred nuisance abatement costs will be passed through directly to the violating party. In regards to business license fees, we're asking to adopt a distinct fee for business license relocation when somebody is moving a business location from one spot in the city to another spot in the city. Adopt a distinct fee for review of new business license application requiring staff review but not requiring field inspection of business permits. And then the industrial permit fee, modify that to reflect the city's cost. That fee is primarily associated with our 2 canneries. annually they submit for their permits, and they are currently paying the $125. The proposed fees do not exceed the city's cost of providing service. Attached to the staff report was the resolution, and then the attachment B is the cost analysis of this service, representing that it's not more than 100% of what it cost us.
Very good. This is a public hearing. I'd like to entertain any opening thoughts or questions from the council before we begin the public hearing. Seeing none, well, let's proceed to the public hearing. And at this point, anybody from the audience can come up, and if they have any questions asked, please do so. Not everybody at once.
I got a question when you're ready.
Okay. Let's go, if nobody has objection, well, let's keep the public hearing going for another moment while we have a couple questions from up here. Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
What is a revision? What's the solar revision? What's that mean?
I'll let Dominique answer that, sorry.
So we have initial applications where someone might submit for a solar permit.
Yeah.
And then somehow in the process, once they get it reviewed and approved, they make a change, either adding or taking away
Okay, so
panels, needing to upgrade the service, those type of things. And so even though they make a simple change like that, we still have to re-review it like it's almost a new application because it changes the entire system.
okay. And then up to 500 square feet, what are we doing there?
On the commercial tenant improvements?
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yes, so this will actually be, is being restructured, or was that the structural?
Both of them are on there.
Both of them are being restructured because after calculating them out from the last approval, they were coming out a lot more expensive than they should have been. And so our building inspector had recalculated them and said that, just because the building is of a larger size doesn't mean that it should be paying more for the permit, because inspection-wise, it's still providing the same permits.
At the same time?
Yeah, at the same time. So we actually structured it either a little bit higher on the square footage, and then drop the fee down so it would be a more reasonable and fair fee.
All right, and then as it goes up, it's up to 500 square feet is 600 and something. Okay, I see that one. Nuisance abatement. That would cover about what, 50 of the things we've been working on?
No, actually, that fee is being put in place so that if we do have issues that are either constant or ones that are taking a long period of time, that we can start tracking our cost and billing them. So at the end, when we take it to council for approval, either to be put on the tax roll or filed as a lien on the property, we can use staff time as well.
How would you
and account
calculate
for
that? How would you calculate it?
Well, it would be depending on who's working on the
So the individual's
notices and their
time,
fee,
the city
yeah.
individual's time, is there a limit?
No?
Okay. And that starts when?
Once this was approved, is the date in here?
No. In terms of if it's passed, how does that apply to the person creating the nuisance?
Well, it would typically, at this point, okay.
I would say it would go to a point where if it isn't extended or they don't abate the issue,
So
is
we
when
would
we
give them an
start.
opportunity to abate. If they
Correct.
didn't abate, then once we had to
Yeah.
move forward after the warning, this becomes in effect.
After a certain number of steps we have to give them their due process.
I understand
If they
that.
don't follow through with their due process, then we give them a warning, we post, and we say, we're gonna come on your property and we're gonna take care of it, whatever it may be. If we do that at that time, then that's when we can recoup our fees.
That's fine with me. I'm
Which
just
we
curious.
did on a few occasions. So this is not new,
Okay.
this is just,
Making sure it's on
Yeah.
paper, yeah.
yeah, just
So we
putting
got-
it on record.
We're just getting it all clean, tidied
Yeah.
up.
And this would
Just-
also apply to addresses or residences in town that are like constant offenders. We have to keep contacting them repeatedly for the same items.
So violations of property use.
Yeah, so if we've already notified you, that you have a bunch of stuff out in your front yard and you haven't been cleaning it, or you cleaned it up, and then a few months later, we have to contact you again from it because we've established that we've already warned you about this incident the first time, we can now move forward with charging from the beginning of the next complaint because it's something we've already addressed with you, and then and then
And
it's
we will
happened
be
again.
documenting this with film as well. We're gonna have photos of
We
before
take
and afters,
pictures.
please.
We do.
That way
yes.
controversy, they said, and all that's over. We have
Yes.
pictures to prove.
We do take pictures.
Because I want it to be tight. I don't want people coming down and going out of their minds. I want them to be able to say, look at the pictures, okay? Let's just do it nice and clean. I like it. Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is still in effect. If anybody from the audience would like to come up and ask any further questions.
Danny Fox, 1510 Adriana. I don't have any questions, I just have a suggestion. I think this is a good resolution. It'll cut down on the staff having to go out every 3 months and posting a notice to abate.
Exactly.
And there's several of those in town.
Too many.
It'd be nice to be able to go back retroactive about a year, but you can't do that. But I think it's a good resolution, a good way to go. Cuts down on staff time, and maybe they'll keep it clean. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Staff time instead of losing money.
Okay, anybody else from the public would like to speak on this topic before we take it back to council for a decision? Seeing none, I'll be closing the public hearing. We'll be bringing it back to council. Council, what is,
I would move
Your
on
pleasure.
staff's recommendation.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to move on staff's recommendation, and that is to approve the resolution of the city council with the city of Escalon revising certain existing fees and establishing new fees for various city services with an effective date of October 18th, 2019. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. Council Communications, Councilmember Crumick.
Thank you, Mary Swift. Is there any update on the parking at Hogan Field or skate park or anything? Are we still waiting for that
The
There-
public hearing
public
is
hearing?
next meeting.
next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Nope, that's it.
Councilmember Crumick, thank you very much. Councilmember Legero.
Nothing, thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Legero, thank you very much. Councilmember Merkin.
I just want to say thanks to all the city staff that participated in the National Night Out. Had a good crowd, had a good evening. It wasn't blazing hot. Thanks to city staff and Public Works for getting a couple of those lots cleaned up. I've seen some improvement over, particularly on Vine Street. And this one may be a little bit early. I was going to ask, I see today that Governor Newsom signed AB 392, which changes the statute to say that a police officer can use deadly force when it is reasonable,
Isn't that amazing?
or when it's necessary.
Yeah.
Now, have you received any guidance on how they're going to define necessary?
No, sir.
Okay.
Chief he's at a chief's conference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure that there'll be some discussion.
I hope so, because I don't know how you define when something is necessary. or
Necessary, yeah.
Necessary.
I think they're still waiting
You
to
know-
determine who defines what is necessary.
Yeah, I mean,
Still the debate.
to define necessary, I mean, are you going to have a checklist that you have to go off of? Or do you have a list of questions that you have to ask the guy that's going to shoot you before you
We kept the
shoot?
department
Yeah.
in the loop, and we've been reading things from the League of Chiefs. And as the discussion continues, it's been discussed upon, escalating as opposed to what was trained in the past of de-escalating. And now they're trying to determine whether use of force from, whether you're using your hands, electronic device, impact device, up to including a firearm. And it's gone both ways. That started firearm, de-escalate, now they're training to, you know what I mean? So as soon as I see accepted it, but as soon as the chief learns, we'll get the rest of it.
Okay. Yeah, I have some real issues with that one. Okay, that's all I got.
Councilmember Merkin, thank you very much. And Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
See, there was a couple of things I wanted to ask. Can I see if I got them still in place, or did I forget? I asked earlier with Tammy, and Tammy told me that she's been extremely busy again, that, about the letter out to the cities for, some solidarity on the, getting the cities to support, the higher wages.
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage
Prevailing
issue,
wage.
yeah. So I just say this, I know you're busy, but I think it's critical that if we can keep pushing this thing, we might get a shot at it. So I know you're busy, but maybe Ann could write the letter or somebody,
I,
but we
I
didn't.
had some deadlines this past week that I met, so
Okay.
hopefully in
Please
the
get
next
it out.
week I
I
can
think
get
it's
that.
critical that we get on that thing and show support from other cities, especially cities our size, because it would make a tremendous impact on us. We had the availability, not to have to spend the kind of money we do to compete with other cities 5 and 6 times our size. The other thing is, I want to thank you guys tonight for enduring what we had to go through this evening, but I don't like things lingering. I hate it. If there's something to talk about and get it done, let's get it done. I just prefer that to do business. That's how I do my business, and let the chips fall where they fall, but that's how I prefer to do business. And I want to thank you guys for going along with it and getting it done. Other than that, I'm good. Thanks.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Els. I'd like to echo what Councilmember Bergen was talking about regarding National Night Out. We had 9 locations. We have 9 locations full of people that were fired up, having a great time with their neighbors, meeting new neighbors, inviting new neighbors over. I tell you, it was a real sense of solidarity in town. And in addition to those 9 locations, I cannot tell you how many times that when we're driving from location to location, you'll have people coming out of their houses. They're waving, they're cheering on. I tell you, we've got a lot to be proud of. You know, if you saw any of National Night Out, it was a very good night. And I tell you, we're pretty strong in terms of, you know, our solidarity as a town, how we feel about our safety services, and we've got a lot to be proud of. I will bring up one quick item. There is a lady, she doesn't mind if I call her out by name, Ann Shaddix, and she's been working very hard regarding the senior programs in town. And they are going to have, and by the way, the name of the group is the Escalon Senior Fun Bunch. And they're going to have an ice cream social. And it's going to be Wednesday, August 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Escalon Community Center. And please join us for an old-fashioned ice cream social. If you have a chance to make it, that'd be fantastic. Council members, if you have a chance to make it, that'll be fantastic too, and show our support for all the work that this group's been doing in enhancing our senior programs in town. So it's a very good thing. And that's all I have for this evening. I know we won't have another meeting until after Labor Day, so everybody have a safe Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Meeting adjourned.